When dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Brainstorm Rec Table, the Brainstorm production where we spend some time discussing one topic or many, depending on the way the conversation flows. This is an open brainstorming sessions where I kick things off with some thoughts and we see where things go from there. I'm Cory, and I'm still joined by Brandon.
Hello.
Dr. Lisa.
Why, hello.
Who else?
I brought my record.
Angela.
I'm not a doctor.
The amazing Angela.
Thank you.
And the long-forgotten Leo.
Hey there.
He's back.
And, of course,
I'm back.
the amazing Dave.
Yeah.
The amazing bachelor degree Dave.
That's right, the amazing BA.
The BSW.
Ladies, don't get your hopes up. He's not a bachelor.
Or
he
guys.
just has a bachelor. Or guys.
That's true.
That was very
non-binary.
sexist.
Non-binary. However you identify, Dave is off
Dave
the
is
market.
That's right. We are in Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is June 8th, 2018.
I'm not going to rant today.
So,
Bullshit. I call bullshit.
I'm not derailing it. I went and listened to that.
Bullshit.
And I was
That's
like,
not a derailment.
I cringed a little
Which one? The
bit.
Mother's Day one?
Yeah.
I love that one.
Do you?
Yeah.
I love everything you do. Unlike
All
that
right.
one song. Thanks,
Yeah.
Lisa.
that was a very good one. But
I enjoyed it. Thanks for indulging me, guys.
Well,
I appreciated it.
But this time,
Leo missed out.
we're going to talk about, well, maybe we'll talk about legalization of drugs. There was a meme that was kind of going around that was like talking about Portugal and the improvement in their society after they legalized every drug. And so I thought this is something that Dave knows something about, I think.
Yeah,
He might have some information that we don't have.
some. Yes.
So Dave,
Enlighten
should
us,
we
Dave.
legalize all drugs?
Yes.
All right, then. That's a short rec table.
That's the end of our show.
Well, I thought that this was already settled. I thought we were all against legalization of drugs. So this is news to me. So let's
There's been
back
some
it up.
changes since you
Back
left.
it up.
Again, though, legalization doesn't mean like ignoring the issue. Like we still need we need to treat it as a public health issue, not as a criminal issue. That's the issue.
But also, I
That's the
think it's good. The title says legalization. I think it's also important to make the distinction between decriminalizing and legalizing.
Exactly.
So that is a huge misconception. Whereas, even with Portugal, it's
Not in-
decriminalized.
Yeah.
criminalized.
Yeah.
So huge difference, but
Yeah. It's kind of like, let's do everything we can to kick out the black market and to not criminalize people and instead try to rehabilitate the best we can. That's basically it. I don't know.
So, I mean, is there something to be like said about, the prohibition? Does it feed the black market? I mean, America kind of discovered that back when they made booze illegal.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I mean, why are we still holding on to this idea that drugs have to be illegal or criminalized?
Nancy Reagan.
Is that right?
It's a little older than that. No, it's older than that. I like to blame her whenever I can.
Yeah.
Oh, my car broke down. Damn you, Nancy Reagan.
I think with that argument,
fits.
I think people still kind of have the general idea that, if you don't make it accessible, that somehow that'll lessen.
They'll just go away.
But I mean, like, and then people want to compare this to the gun issue. I don't like to compare the two. I think they're very different.
Yeah.
Well, you can't kill. It's totally different. It's totally different.
It's difficult to kill someone else with drugs.
Yeah, well, maybe there you go.
And the thing is, one of the big differences, and I hear this shit all the time, like most of my family's quite right wing when it comes to like the gun issue. Like I'm very open about my pro decriminalization / legalization, but I hear that all the time. Gun restrictions won't help. Well, the thing is, what it does when you start having the discussion about decriminalizing or legalizing something like drugs, you can actually start to have guidelines and regulations. So if you go to a doctor, in the United States, in a state where none of the drugs are legal except for alcohol and booze and prescription,
right?
They are legally required to tell you not to take any drugs, or they're very limited to what kind of advice they can give you on it. But if you start decriminalizing it, then you can start, doctors actually giving you real advice on how to manage things. Like if you're addicted to heroin, they can actually give you some advice on how to treat it, while still maybe taking some heroin products or whatever, opioids. Mm-hmm. But it just makes it easier for people to get help instead of
of being like a black hole.
Just like a similar thing to like sex education. If you do abstinence only,
right,
then you can't even suggest that people use any kind of birth control because no, just like abstinence,
right.
And so
just don't do it.
That's one of the major things. And, guns are totally different, but also nobody's, proposing to ban them, like where you can't have any questions. It's all about just refining the regulations. So
right.
First you need to be able to talk about the issue in a common sense way.
You mean like the CDC's, the moratorium on their gun research?
That's Congress, though. That's not their choice.
That's one of the benefits, I think, of legalization or decriminalization of drugs. Is something that I'm looking forward to because there's some really major claims being made from people that currently use marijuana recreationally and otherwise. That it cures cancer. It regrows your limbs and stuff like that. It's an extreme example.
Some weed on
it.
Put some weed on it.
Was that brought up by Dr. Connors?
I don't know, but it's excruciating to have to navigate that. I'm really looking forward to actual regulations, actual research being done, and actual safe guidelines. And like you said, doctors can actually speak to that. And a lot of people use marijuana for epilepsy and things of that nature. And it's kill that ant. Do it. It's
That was a literal comment. There was an ant in the studio.
Yeah, there's a little smudge on the table now.
But my stepdaughter asked me this week, she's like, well, are you going to start using weed if it becomes legal? And I said, well, I might, but not the
yes.
Not the, like, maybe the CBD oil because I deal with chronic pain. I get headaches a lot, and that's something that I would definitely.
But smoking a bunch of weed isn't necessarily good for your lungs either, right?
No, I quit smoking 10 years ago, and I don't want to go back to that. And you can have some serious medical issues if you smoke too much weed.
Well, it's almost like smoke inhalation is bad for you or something.
It's almost
or
like
something. That. And now with research that's being done about third-hand smoke, and that if you can smell it, you're being negatively affected by it. That concerns me too. So I think, while I don't know, I think it's going to be a positive thing, and I hope the Senate / House of Commons gets their shit together, because it sounds like things have been a little bit frustrating.
And also just, well, in terms of knowing what you're getting, because I mean,
That
this
too.
is
Exactly.
So for research purposes as well. Like, I mean, the U.S. they have like one person who can grow weed for research purposes. Like I think it's like Mississippi or somewhere.
Right.
That's
But just this is unnecessary crap just because of a class 1 drug, like where you have it on the same list. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the big misconceptions that a lot of people have is, well, if we just slightly like change a little bit, then soon everybody will be stoned 24/7.
Well,
and that's one of the things like that. That's not how it works. It's not how it works.
not everyone's drunk 24/7.
Yeah, because we don't drink beer all the time either, right? No, just kidding. No, just kidding.
Well, I
The times
Some
that
people
I've
drink
been
beer.
high, I haven't enjoyed it.
I just don't see a problem with that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also,
even if that was the case, right? Like,
but even people now, I have enough self-control that I can go to my job,
Well, yeah, exactly.
not being drunk.
Exactly.
And then I can have some beers after I get off work, but people already have enough self-control to like, oh yeah. I'm a responsible adult. I'm going to go do what I need to do today.
Yeah.
And then if I feel like it, I'm
I'll
going to,
get high.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's also treating people like children. Like,
Totally.
if weed is available, people won't be able to control themselves and they'll just like smoke day in and day out. Like, that's just not how it is.
Yeah.
this is why, I have a pretty radical idea when it comes to this stuff. Like, I really think that if we just allowed all these types of things, all narcotics to be accessible, educated, and clean, like in terms of like, exactly what you're getting.
Well, you're going to have fewer overdoses. You're going to have...
Yeah, you don't have all this
fewer
tampering
fentanyl
from
deaths.
You don't have fentanyl overdose bullshit going
That's
on.
right.
You don't have like, I don't know. Again, I don't think it's like the most magical solution or anything, but I think it's in terms of harm reduction, which is kind of the main concept we follow these days in addictions.
Well, and having needle exchange programs and having a clean injection sites that people can go to.
And what about the harm reduction with respect to gangs and black market issues?
Absolutely.
I mean, like,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just not good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you mean if we're selling things like that legally and we're giving people educated information and providing the right treatment and all that stuff, and yeah, okay, take the taxes you get from that and put it towards rehabilitation and prevention, and whoa, oh my God, all of a sudden we don't have all these criminals and we don't have as many overdoses, and we have, even if some people, there's people who are injection users and they're probably never gonna stop. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And at the very least we can do is reduce the amount of hospital time they have to spend, reduce the amount of law enforcement time they have, reduce their chances of death, lessen the amount they use, like those kinds of things. Like those can be done, but through harm reduction.
Absolutely.
Like not everybody's just going to be able to quit and find God and do AA and all this nonsense. Like that seems to be the classic addictions approach.
Well, and they've tried that also with alcohol, like giving people who identify as alcoholics a small amount of beer every hour. They they go to a place where they get a little bit of beer and then they go, and so that they can maintain a certain level and they're not, drinking a 26 of vodka in one sitting or whatever. They're just they're maintaining a certain level, and it's been proven.
So they don't resort to chiladas. That's really true. That's the true tragedy here.
Wow.
I think you think that's a burn. I feel fine about my choice of drink.
Hey, they are perfect for breakfast.
Hashtag not ashamed.
That's right. That's true.
He's getting his tomato intake for the day.
Hopefully there won't be tariffs.
Clam.
Let's hope you don't have to pay
How many
more for
servings
your...
of vegetable are in there?
At least one.
Is there fiber?
Sure?
Check.
I'm curious.
I'm sure
I gotta
these
know.
won't say.
They don't have to
It
put
doesn't
nutritional
say.
value on alcoholic
It's the
beverages.
best of
That's
two
right.
worlds. Consider adding salt and lime.
It's not V8.
Will there be
It's
nutritional
not.
information on pot edibles,
Yes.
fiber levels, and whatnot?
Oh, would there be that? Yeah, there should be
It
that.
might be.
There should be that.
Yeah, there might be.
I bet you that'll be in the labeling restrictions. That makes sense.
One would hope. The thing that frustrates me too is the SGI had an ad campaign not
it's
that long
terrible.
ago about, you're not supposed to drive high. Well, what the fuck? Do you think we've been all living under rocks? Like, just because we're on the cusp of legalization that, now we're going to smoke weed and drive.
Well, and it's like, you mean there hasn't been a problem already with this?
Exactly.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate
Okay,
here, but I
please
think
do.
this is exactly one of the things that I was referring to earlier. Before, SGI just pretended that weed didn't exist. Like they
Right.
pretended that this abstinence only worked. Oh no, of course nobody's going to smoke weed.
Yeah.
And now they can actually put it in their ads. Like they've had the drinking and driving ads for, well, before I was born. But now they can actually say that, yeah, don't do drugs and don't drink and drive.
Yeah, I don't really
now
think
they
it's
can
a bad
honest,
campaign, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought when I saw it for the first time, I had a completely different reaction. I was
Is
like,
that right?
this is great.
Okay.
I was like,
No, you-
finally they're starting to talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
too.
You know
Okay.
what the problem with the campaign is, though? Like, and actually, like a marketing person I know very well told me this. It's not specific enough. Like
Yeah.
some of these posters, like literally show a pile of pills equals DUI. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, so there's certain
They
medications.
changed them. I think they now say driving high equals you. They actually
Some of them do. Some of them do. Not
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
THC equals DUI. Like I think I saw one of the signs downtown. Somewhere.
Yeah. Some of them are
Yeah.
a little better than others. But there's some that are very vague about like pills, like,
Well, yeah.
and I mean, like, what does
does
that?
my aspirin count for DUIs?
Yeah. Or yeah, exactly. Right. Like,
take enough of it.
it's misleading. I also
How
feel
do they
like,
test that though?
well, yeah, right. And I
I mean,
If you were driving really wonky and the cops pulled you over, I guess they'd have to
Right.
send you somewhere for a blood test. That would pretty much.
yeah.
well, they're talking about saliva tests for marijuana.
Really?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
they're talking about. But the problem is that the detection can happen like after you're really intoxicated.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and it stays in your system for so long,
exactly. Like, I mean, so the next day I can wake up completely fine and I say get in an accident and then they test my saliva. Oh, you were high. Well, no, I
too.
wasn't.
And that was the issue with Mr. Rebagliati way back in the day. He didn't smoke weed himself. But he went to
You're
a
so
party.
bitter about that gold medal. Fuck.
So bitter. Hey, yeah.
Goddamn
Not-
Olympics.
I'm
She was
just,
inconsolable.
Like 19. This is like Nagano, people. It's like 1998. Angela's not over. Angela
I was
listening. You were
in
listening to S
Atlanta for
Club
the
7.
'96 Olympics. I got to
You were
see the
mad.
Canadians win the 4x100 relay, and the American press were like, "Let's talk to the silver medalists." They were.
I don't even remember who won anything in the last Olympics.
No.
It was especially memorable because it was a church missions trip, and my brother got offered a beer by one of the people, and then the chaperones were like, "I'll take that."
but
And it was
Jesus,
probably in that tone as well. Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
liked to party though. He liked to party with his wine.
He
true.
super did, and I remember
on.
that was like
Jesus
heartbreaking.
was a socialist hippie.
Yeah, he turned water into wine. I mean,
hey guys, I got the beer.
totally.
Like he removed a valuable resource and turned it into
Yeah.
party.
That's right.
He knew what it was like to be popular, so he was making the good kind.
And I believe there's something that it probably didn't make it into the Bible, but he probably smoked that hashish and whatever.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
Oh,
He was smoking
Yeah,
opium or whatever.
he probably said like, "Oh no, don't write that down. Don't worry about this.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
people don't want to know about what."
Yeah, just leave that part out. Yeah. Redacted.
People were high in the Bible all the time.
That's right.
It wasn't included in
Ezekiel?
subsequent
Hell,
versions.
the whole Bible was written high. Like,
Yeah.
People were seeing burning bushes. They were
have you
like,
read Revelation?
I didn't know they had LSD back in the day.
That was more like mushrooms.
Ah,
No, I think
I am
People
offended
have
that
to
you are
know.
all mocking my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You fuckers.
We only mentioned Sam Harris a little bit.
Lord and Savior Sam Harris.
My Lord and Savior, Mr. Sam Harris.
He's got a decent voice, I guess.
If you need to go
he's
to
not
sleep.
he doesn't have
Mandisa did not like him. I was like, I didn't want to even ask what she did. I don't even want to go there. I'm scared.
Oh, we could have if
we
she
could
wanted
have,
to
but
stay
I didn't want to.
longer.
I didn't want to. I was scared of her.
She
I was terrified.
she's a badass, and I kind of have a crush on her. I'm not gonna lie, but
Uh-oh,
I
Lisa.
kind of have a crush on
Lisa,
Sam
you got
Harris.
competition.
I pretty much have a crush on everybody. Who am I kidding? But weed, I don't know. The SGI thing rubbed me the wrong way. I kind of got frustrated when the police were like, "Oh no, you guys, we need more money." Okay, well, I don't think there's going to be an onslaught of like 45-year-old people that are like, "I'm going to smoke a joint." I think you're going to be home already.
The idiots who are driving high have already been driving.
Well, yeah, like,
You've been driving high.
Why didn't they have a strategy before? Like, this is what I don't understand.
Well, that's-
It's
Yeah,
like,
that I
That's
agree.
my argument too.
That doesn't happen.
But that goes to Leo's argument.
And that's how I've always viewed it. Maybe that's. I'd never even thought about finding the SGI ads kind of. I found the production value of them just deplorable.
Yeah, that was lame.
But
Have you
I
heard
was
the
like,
ones where they
thought
like
that counts.
Fred Flintstone and like they do all the total like copyright infringement? It's awful. Like there's a Bart Simpson one. It's awful. Fred Flintstone. Awful.
I can't say I haven't been involved in some copyright infringement with ads. So,
Well, yeah, you
doing
have the
it,
inside
like-
track. I think the thing that frustrates, I wasn't offended by the SGI ads. It just feels
No.
like too little, too late. It's like this has been an issue, and I think it's valuable that they're talking about it. It's becoming a thing. Okay, let's talk about it. I think we should have always been talking about it.
But there is a thing where, at least in Saskatchewan, where we've had relatively conservative governments for a long time, where the
Still
idea,
do.
Yes.
Whereas the idea where if it's not okay, they could take the idea that if it's not okay to be high and drive, then it's okay as long as you're not driving, and that's not the message they want to put forth.
But it is.
Whether or not it's
When it comes to pot, I mean, like Jesus Christ.
yes, but they don't want to admit that. Like the governments we had before the messages they want to send out is not that it's okay to be high. They didn't want to do that.
Just
So
like
they
they
can't-
don't want to have
Jesus,
a carbon tax,
but
but they
Jesus,
want
come on,
the
we've
money.
But it goes back to the same point that I was saying about like abstinence only. The reason, like when you take like let's say a fundamentalist Christian church, they don't want the people to think that sex is okay even if you don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
Like they're like no, just never. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of the same to the point of not only do
Don't
we not
even
want
dance.
you to, not only when you're driving should you not be high, you should never be high. Like so if we only mention driving, then people are gonna think, oh, so just when I'm driving,
I'm at home,
wow,
I'm good.
Yeah. But that's so that's
Campfire?
one of the
So you're
Weed?
talking about sex or being high?
both.
Okay.
So like it's kind of a similar like narrative thing like that you can.
I think that's fair.
It's always great.
Yeah.
It's always great.
Especially when driving.
Sex?
wait, what?
There's a term for that.
This makes me think of like, I think it was last winter when, some of the stats came out and it showed that like, even though over the years we've had all these anti-drunk driving ads and this whole campaign, like in Saskatchewan at least, the stats have stayed pretty consistent. Like people drink and drive.
It does
here.
make a difference, right?
No.
They don't care.
No.
So
There's a lot of other. I think there's more factors than I want to drink and drive. But it's more related to
It's
the
got to be a
nature.
cultural change, right? It has to be like, what? You dude, no. What do you do? Like everyone has to be like, you know, you have to have a social pressure not
Well,
to do
and
that,
if you live 20 miles from the bar, I mean, what
Yes.
choice do you have? A cab is it's a lot of dollars.
down where I work, everybody lives 20 miles from the bar.
That's right. That's right.
and you still measure things in miles?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. It is a rural problem more than it is a city problem.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like that's just it. Like I'm sure if you broke it down by municipality, urban ridings would have less problems than
Right.
than rural ridings.
Yeah.
Because transit is accessible and not punishingly expensive.
Yeah.
Has there been much gerrymandering of different areas here? We could probably
You could
figure
talk
that out
about
somehow.
the fact that in the last time that any MLAs were added, they were all rural. And coincidentally,
They all
Those-
vote conservative.
yes.
Definitely.
I was like, we could put a city one in, but then they might vote in NDP or something. And
Yeah.
No.
I'm not giving up my Ralphie.
Oh, hey, I
That's
met
the
the guy
living.
who ran against him for the cons.
Did you?
Oh,
Yeah.
cons.
Yeah, he works with my boyfriend. I met him at like his
The confidence men.
Oh.
guy who ran against him.
How is that? Like, how does he feel running against Ralph Goodell?
I didn't ask. I should have asked him about it.
I feel like
we did like
Also-
this
Might have given you a
hilarious
dirty
like what's
look
it
and
called?
walked away.
What's the thing where you run around looking for stuff?
Scavenger.
Scavenger hunt. Like,
There
they
you
had
go.
and it was hilarious. I got to like hug a security guard and dance with the cowboy. It was amazing.
But
Check off the bucket list.
Fuck yeah.
I'm
And I did a pyramid. Anyway,
Didn't you grow up in Calgary?
So?
And you didn't dance with a cowboy before that?
I thought that was like what happened when you were
like
6.
Stampede.
Like, isn't that like one of those rite of passages?
Just like frat boys in Calgary. I don't know like what you guys think of Calgary, but like
Well, they call it Cowtown.
yeah, well they lie.
And
You have a bar called Cowboys, don't
there's
you?
the Stampede.
Yeah, but that's just full of fake boobs, like real cowboys. They're all
Wow.
fake boobs.
Illusion destroyed.
Thanks,
How
Lisa.
can you guys not know that you are way more cowboy than Calgary?
Busted myths.
You're in Saskatchewan.
I thought it was a bunch of
People.
horses at the Stampede.
Yeah.
There are horses. There's
Horses
Save
do
a
the
horse.
stampede.
Oh, ride a frat boy.
Lots
yeah.
of public fornication occurring too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like Craven.
Wait, amongst
Like
the Cowboys
weird.
or amongst
Yeah.
the horses?
As far as I know, just the people. But
I don't know if horses can fornicate because they can't marry. Right? Like the only way to have
This is
sex
true
with a
terminology.
How do they,
So
how do they
But
get
no,
consent?
no, then they're always fornicating if they're not married. Isn't that how
they
it works?
can't marry, so they don't have a choice. I mean, like, how are they?
Well, they're just always fornicating. Like
Exactly.
they're just, they're
Fuck, I
just
didn't-
born
Is
in sin.
fornication by definition outside the confines of marriage?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yes.
I think that's the.
Oh, well, there we go then.
Yeah.
Sweet.
However, there is occasions of the one or two people who've married horses. So
We were going to talk about drugs.
we kind of have.
we did. We
We're talking about it.
did.
there are no drugs in the studio.
All of us agree too
Well,
much.
I think, we're kind
that's
of
true.
on the
It's
same
tough
page.
it's tough to have too in-depth of a
Sorry.
discussion.
I'm sorry.
I think it's I think it'll be interesting to see how, like, if there is any change in any way whatsoever with it's going to be more in the open with marijuana anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little harder to hide it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of excited about the fact that someone will be able
Brandon's-
to gotta turn that down.
Turn your
Can't.
phone
I'm
down.
on call.
Turn it to vibrate.
Right, vibrate.
Does it vibrate?
It does, but then I might not hear it.
Put it in your pocket,
Hold it in your hand. No,
in
just kidding.
between your legs, wherever you're going to feel it.
Speaking of vibrations,
Angela is volunteering to
No.
she'll watch
for
your phone
you.
for you.
No, don't even put it close to me. There
This is a
are
live
ways.
call-in show now. No, but I'm interested to see like I'm excited about the fact that I can just go. I don't know. I can just go hang out in the park and just smoke some like pot. Well, then again, I don't know. Maybe we won't be able to do it there. Maybe we're gonna have to go in our
My
Specific
understanding
areas.
that we wouldn't be allowed to do it in Wascana Park.
right. So I'd have to go to a bar that allows it, or I'd have to go to
Cloud
Yeah.
9
or my
whatever.
personal place or my car. I wonder if you can do it in your car. I don't know.
I think
Well, you can't smoke in your car with kids, right?
no,
No,
that's
with
true.
kids, right? But
So
You're fucked, Dave. You're fucked. You get nothing.
you got nothing.
There's got to be a
but you can
way.
be in your backyard.
Your
Yeah.
backyard,
Yeah.
which would suck in the winter.
I thought they were going to make the
Yeah.
rules similar to that of smoking tobacco.
It probably will.
I think
to be
so.
honest.
Yeah.
That's
It would be reasonable.
That depends.
That's fine.
If
So then they
it's-
probably won't.
If it's
reasonable.
if it's the legislature, it probably won't be.
But if you have pot
'Cause didn't-
brownies,
I thought that
break that
was
shit
already
out.
settled. I thought.
I think there is some information on this already, but I don't
Yeah,
remember, I don't remember it all.
Now I'm starting to doubt myself, but I thought it was already they had already proposed that, the legislature. They had, because they already proposed their plan of how to regulate
Yeah.
it,
Oh, okay.
and I thought that was where tobacco can be smoked.
yeah,
You can smoke marijuana.
yeah.
I thought that was,
But I don't think
It makes sense.
I don't know if you can in public that easily though.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
the public. I'm not, but I thought it was almost very similar.
So if you're walking down,
but I'm not. Yeah.
like if you could walk down the sidewalk with a cigarette, then you can walk down the sidewalk with a joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
I hope,
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I'm also
Okay.
excited about not that I have an employer anymore, but if I was still working at the government per se, and it'd be Friday, and be like, oh, so what are you gonna do this week? And, some of my friends, we're gonna go grab some marijuana.
Right.
And we're gonna go have, a little gathering, and we're just gonna smoke some weed and, have some fun. Oh, cool. Like you could say that and it won't be
Right.
a big deal,
Yeah.
You
won't
cannot be fired
blacklisted.
for it.
Exactly. It's it's just like you saying, I'm going to go have some drinks with my friends after work. And
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. That is so long overdue.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and say marijuana is the healthiest thing ever and blah, blah. But it's
No,
just,
it's still a drug.
it's just that we've had alcohol so normalized for so long, and I've always felt so stupid about the fact that there's some people who think that like marijuana is like so bad and alcohol is like so okay. And I just don't understand that. Like I just never.
Well, yeah, I've seen all the worst behavior I've seen from people on drugs. Well, I haven't seen too many people on hard drugs, but I've seen a lot of bad behavior coming out of people on alcohol.
Alcohol is the cause of all kinds of problems. And I'm not saying we should legalize it, but I'm saying like, if it's normalized, I just don't understand why.
And also just being able to talk about it, like you said.
Definitely.
If you can talk to your doctor, your therapist, your local police officer, so that you don't have to be hiding it. That is super helpful.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Hi, constable. I was going to smoke a joint over there.
Like, am I? You can ask your police officer, like, oh, is it okay for me to smoke a joint here?
Right.
You can actually say, and
hey, if you're off duty, would you like to come smoke with me?
No, but that is like, you could ask a police officer, like, can I drink over here, like by this lake or like whatever? You can ask them that.
Okay?
Yeah, and he's gonna be like, no, you can't drink there. Put it back in your vehicle. Okay, all right. And you won't get arrested for it. But just actually being able to talk like fucking adults, that's
right.
So the social stigma.
Adults. That's right.
Like fucking adults.
Yeah, well, finally being able to acknowledge that it's like, it's just something people do and it's not like, it's not the devil.
But not you, Dave, right?
I think we've come a long way lately.
Not anymore.
Closer, but you're right. I think we have further we need to go, and alcohol has been a kind of a mainstay for longer.
Yeah. That's not. Yeah. It depends, like in modern parlance, because I mean, a lot of smokable drugs are really old, right?
Well, I don't know. Like the circles that I mean, it depends. My family circle, weed is bad. It's very bad. But amongst my friends, it's socially acceptable. I mean, it's not something that you belittle people for participating.
The younger generations seem to not care. Like,
Like
I don't encounter many like 19, 20-year-olds who are like, oh my God, you smoke weed? Like, no, we've all tried it. It's like, whatever,
Right.
Like,
they were probably just impressed that an old person like you would do it.
oh, they were so impressed, Lisa.
I can't imagine.
I am the coolest old person you know.
I know you are.
Actually, that's
I'm already
accurate.
let me tell you about my 20-year-old friends.
Oh.
No, just kidding.
And it's a relatively new thing that, well, I guess in the bigger scheme of things, to demonize some of these drugs like weed, I think that's only like mid of last century, like 60, 70 years ago.
Right.
Before that, people didn't give a shit. Like there's all kinds of evidence that probably a lot of the founding fathers in the U.S. like smoked weed and grew it and shit like that.
Right.
So where only the kind of the rise of conservatism in the mid-century, that's where it started becoming like, oh, this is.
They were wrong even then.
This Jesus doesn't like this, and we need to get rid of this.
Well, depending if you believe it, it was actually some of the problems was with a newspaper magnate named William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah, actually, Skeptoid did a great episode on that that everybody should listen to.
And something else is that the earliest anti-marijuana ads were based on the idea that it would turn people into essentially bloodthirsty maniacs.
Right.
Then wars happened, and that's how we got into the basically sluggish, like you don't want to do anything image, because it was hip at the time. Because frankly, if you could use marijuana as a combat drug, it wouldn't have been a problem. It's not like they haven't drugged their soldiers before. But no, it was the patriotic of if you smoke weed, you won't fight for your country.
I won't fight for my country anyway.
Fuck that.
I'm going to be a conscientious objector.
My knees are too fucked up for that shit.
Right. I'm getting old.
We're all a little above average age for entering the military here, so
I don't care.
It's like I could, but I have that spin class.
One ruler's as good as another, I guess. I don't know.
Is that why you always let other people have charge?
Yeah. That's why when the US takes over Canada, because we won't submit to their trade tariffs or whatever the fuck is going on there.
Where can I think I have to move to Eastern Europe when that happens.
Eastern Europe? No.
Western. I don't know.
Northern Europe.
Norway, I think
Yep.
I'll go.
And by saying one ruler is as good as another, I mean they're all awful.
I kind of like Angela Merkel. I'm a fan.
She's problematic in some ways.
What do you mean? What do you
I believe
mean?
hers is the Christian German Party. I'm trying to remember what exactly her
Christian
thing is.
Alliance, is it?
Yeah.
I think it's a Christian Alliance.
It's not outright theocratic, but at the same time, it's...
But then again, that means that in Europe, that's an entirely different thing.
It is. It is a
Exactly.
different thing.
Totally.
If you ever
Super
got
chill.
if you got the Christian Alliance in the U.S., I don't think they have one. Hope not. But if their definition, like you would have what's that fucker's name who predicts the end of the world all the time, like that old fucker.
Nostradamus.
No, the old guy.
Modern
Pat
day.
Robertson.
My Nana loves
Pat
him.
Robertson. You
Really?
have Mr.
No,
President Pat
Nostradamus.
Robertson.
Cheers.
Well, they tried to start it a couple times.
Yeah.
And there's that
where's
little...
the
Did he
punch
die,
card?
or am I thinking of someone else?
Where's the punch
pretty sure
card
Robertson's
of all
dead.
the?
No, Robertson is still alive.
Who's the one who died?
Unfortunately,
Falwell's dead.
Billy Graham
Billy
died.
Graham died.
Graham died.
He's
Okay.
the most recent.
Sorry.
America's preacher, I think they called him at one point.
Yep.
Well, he'd been the advisor to like 50 presidents.
Something like that.
They haven't had
Roughly.
quite. They haven't had quite 50 in their history, but yeah, roughly 50.
Well, I mean, you don't know what those seances are good for
Give or
yet.
take.
Give or take 10 or yeah.
Yeah.
He could be speaking from a future knowledge. Are you a time traveler?
No, but I think you had been. I think
how you paused.
I think he was the advisor since Truman, like right after World War II. I think he
he's
advised every single president since then.
But did any of them really? I can't see Barack Obama be like, really? You think I should?
Well, he was.
like,
Yeah.
No, but this is
he might have been less advisory.
This is the same tradition of the government that has the tradition of like the national prayer breakfast.
Well, and that was one of the things that he would regularly attend, wasn't it? Like back in the day when he was still able to walk.
And there's stuff like people praying for the protection of the president. Like it doesn't surprise me if Barack could listen to that. I'm not sure if he did anything about it.
He did have to put on a bit of a show of being a Christian. I mean, I don't know how much he actually believed it, but
you essentially can't be elected if you're not Christian.
he definitely had to appear like he was a religious person.
Mm-hmm.
he didn't act overly religious.
No, not really. Not overly, but he did go to church and he did have the prayer breakfast regularly and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Probably he was a very good secularist though.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not going to get to this other thing that I kind of was thinking about where supposedly the 8 richest men in the world have more wealth than 50% of the rest of us.
Good thing I didn't read it.
Is there some truth to that?
There is some truth to that,
that's what I thought.
actually.
Pretty sure I'm in the bottom 60.
Right. Yeah,
Not
no, there
60%,
definitely
not
is.
60 people.
I don't know why the meme was going around like the last month or so.
Yeah.
But because the data came out in January 2017 and
right.
And it is actually pretty accurate. I mean, you're comparing the 8 richest people to the poorest 50%.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty insane.
And
it is still pretty insane.
I mean, if you do the math, so what are like the 8 richest people in the world? And let's face it, they're all dudes, but they
Oprah Winfrey.
old white dudes.
Yeah, but most of them range between 50 and 75 billion. So if you add that up, how many people in the world have only a couple of dollars of net worth?
That's right.
It's like, if you multiply, like, let's say a low estimation would be 50 billion times 8. that's $40 trillion if I'm doing my math right.
You might be.
I'm not doing it.
No. 50, that's 50.
My bachelor's in social work.
400 billion.
Even Dave thinks you're wrong over there.
No.
It's 400.
Not fucking doing it.
400 billion.
Yeah, you're right. 400 billion.
Yeah.
Not quite a trillion.
But 400 billion, and if you do that,
it's a lot of goddamn money.
And if you do the half of the population, 50%, that's like what,
3.5, 3.75
Even if
billion.
you do 4, like 400 or 4
billion.
4 billion, $100 per person.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, they could give $100 to the poorest half.
You have a phone sitting right fucking there in front of you with a calculator built into it.
I have
Why
a
are you
brain-
trying to impress people?
I have a brain that's slightly slower in my head,
And wronger.
but it gets it right eventually. Just wait for it. You can fact check me at home,
You know, and
and please write us some angry emails. You know,
some people would argue, like some people who are into modern, free trade and all this stuff would argue that like, but these people with all this wealth are creating all these jobs and all this economic activity. And if they didn't have that kind of power, that wouldn't be happening. Which on one hand, I get like look at Elon Musk and like some of the innovative things he's doing with his company. Having
is he
said
one
that,
of the top 8 though?
I think he would be in the top 8. I think, would he not?
I don't think he is.
I don't think.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not.
I don't think he's.
He might be top 50. I don't think he's
which
top 8.
makes the problem actually worse.
There you
because
go.
People like him aren't even rich enough to be in the top 8.
Yeah.
So
I've looked at the top 8. Well, the top like 10 over the years. Like every once in a while, I'll look who's
right.
And the only kind of decent people on that list are normally like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Those are like the only two that are like, but the rest of them, there's like a couple of Spanish dudes that own everything. There's the one Mexican dude that
the
owns
telecom giant.
the telecom giant.
Right.
And then I think there's like a couple of Middle Eastern Gulf, like
oil tycoons.
like oil princes.
Yeah.
Like at some point, like what part of their wealth should become brought back into the general public?
Well, that's
not just stockpiled. You know what I mean?
The thing is that they also like to make the argument of like, I have more money, therefore I spend more money, therefore I create more jobs.
Except that's not how that works.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
The middle class is more efficient in providing jobs than rich people
Yes. Yeah.
are. With this, sorry.
No, it's basic economics in a sense, right? Like the people who have the money and need to spend it to live stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
People who have the money and don't need to spend it to live hoard it.
Like, in all honesty,
Creating inflation.
Say somebody has $1 billion in personal worth and decides to buy a yacht, and then there's another person who has $10 billion in personal worth. They're not likely to buy 10 yachts.
Right. They'll buy one yacht.
Okay, guys. People with a lot of money invest money too, right? Like that's where the argument. It's not that they're personally spending. Oh no, but that's where the argument is like, they just can't buy enough yachts to keep the car. No. They're supposed to be investing it. Maybe they don't, but that's what they're supposed to be. That's the theory of capitalism, right? Like I'm just saying.
But even if
they don't.
Just saying, that's the theory is not they should buy more yachts. The theory is
even if part of the problem there when they demand more dividends to make money. Go on.
But investing is not the same as spending. So the one
thing that's what I'm saying.
No, even if they do invest it, it doesn't circulate.
Really go circulate.
Because what helps the poor people is if somebody buys a coffee from your local coffee shop.
No. I'm not. I'm just saying. But I mean, investment in general, like at a high level, should stimulate your. I mean, that's the basis of
depends on the
economy since like 1600 or.
That depends partly on what they expect to get from their investment. Do they expect to basically hand over $2 million and get that back? Because then it's just kind of there.
It has worked in a way, but it's also created inflation, which has increased it's not straightforward, but it also, but essentially hoarding money doesn't work. And in the end, a lot of these people are hoarding money.
I'm sure they are.
Well, and how you accumulate that money is one of the problems too. Like the only way somebody gets that much wealth is if they're able to exploit somebody somewhere.
Yes.
And that's the part that bothers me the most is that because our trade borders are so wide open now, you can have ownership in a company and be doing your work in some other country that has no labor rights and just make a killing because you're selling your product to whatever other country that has wealth, right? So you're basically just, first of all, enslaving one population and then sucking the wealth out of the other one to get that far, right? And I think that's not the case for everybody, but that's definitely the case for a lot of people with money. Like like a lot of companies like Nike or like,
did you say Nike?
Yeah. Or like, even computer companies too, right? Like, not that they're all into the sweatshop market, but some of them definitely are. Yeah. Like
not to
there's
mention low cost labor for assembly purposes.
Yeah. Stuff like that, right? So that's what I mean. Like it's, that wealth is built on the exploitation of others.
Yes.
And typically like,
you don't get rich by, unless you exploit the labor of others and go for the cheapest labor that you can.
Well, you maximize profits, right?
Yes.
That is the neoliberal capitalist way. You have to maximize.
Yep.
And if there's an opportunity to maximize, you take it regardless of the ethical reasons not to, like that's one of the big philosophies out there these days. And I hate that. Like, it's just so, and their argument is, we're developing these nations where, by Bangladesh becoming, masters of clothing manufacturing, eventually they're going to manifest their own destiny and take over that industry. And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit.
Apparently they couldn't bother to spend enough to build proper buildings in there.
Well, have you seen the conditions that most of these places are in? Like, it's like, that's garbage. It's just ownership at this point. It's slavery without the actual ownership part. So then they're not responsible for their health.
Yeah. You can pay them and assume that they have to take care of themselves.
That was actually an idea floating around, in the history of capitalism. The reason why one of the big reasons why they wanted to move away from slavery had nothing to do with like freedom of rights. It had to do with practicality. Like a lot of these guys they didn't want to have to take care of the people that they were, that they were owning. Like, seriously, no, this is a real thing that you can.
I know, it's just gallows humor for me. It's like, holy crap, it's worse.
Like when I studied, the history of capitalism in sociology, and that was one of the big things we talked about was that idea and how it started kind of percolating. I can't remember what era, decade this was in, but basically, like if you don't own the person and you're not responsible for their health, you're not responsible for their living, you can make them feel as if they're free. But in the end, like they're still indentured to you in some way. But then they go home and they're their own person at the end of the day. So you don't have to take care of anything. And if there was no labor movement to kind of enforce, benefits and all these other things, then that's how it works. That's exactly how it works. Yeah. The employer has zero responsibility for that person. And not to say that I would choose slavery over this, but at the same time, it's like to think that some people have like these real big high moral aspirations to ending slavery was kind of bullshit for a lot of people back then. Like, it really was.
I want to paraphrase a meme I saw making the rounds recently. It's like, it seems like some of the people in charge have forgotten that organized labor and negotiating for stuff is the alternative we agreed on to not breaking your house and killing you.
Well, ultimately, right. Yeah. Like, you want to subdue the masses a little bit, so you got to give them some stuff. You got to give them concessions. It's like, otherwise what prevents us from rising up and doing
it's funny,
right?
That we've kind of gone to the complaining about capitalism in that this meme that cause I couldn't find the red screen with the words on it that I had originally seen. But I did find the same meme in a tweet, and it says the world's 8 richest people now have the same wealth as the poorest 3.6 billion people in the world. And then it's got the Simpsons scene where Lennon is breaking out of the glass.
I love that one. That's amazing. Must crush capitalism.
All right. Let's close this out. All right. For everything else, you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. Thanks to our financial supporters, Stephanie Zach, the Utah Outcasts. Hey, now let's hit that outro music.
I was about to do it. I was about to do it before you. I didn't think you were going to tell me.
Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin sucks. Bob, Glenn, Destin doesn't suck that much. Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave. Positively skeptical. Rob, Julie, Chris, and Larry. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast.
Plurals can be skeptics too.
That's right. Or you can go buy stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. You can join us every second week, except we only have one more left before the summer break. Our next show is on June 22nd, and our guest will be Matthew Lee Loftus, a.k.a. The Credible Hulk.
Neat.
Thanks again to Mandisa for joining us. You can find more of her stuff at blacknonbelievers.wordpress.com, so make sure to check that out. Thank you, Dave, for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from Embrace the Void podcast for doing the voiceover. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Camper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for the outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, or thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. For live listeners, stick around for the after show. Some of us might stick around. Brainstormafterhours.com. Listen to the bonus content before it goes Patreon only. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We just wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.